Years ago, when it first came to Knoxville, I was traveling with Paula Dean, and she had these bodyguards that looked like movie stars, and I said, "What do y'all do?" And they said, "CrossFit." And I said, "Well, I want to do it." Well, me and my friend, Church of God, Becky, Church of God, Becky and I joined the CrossFit in Knoxville. The CrossFit was run at the time by these little children. They were in their early 20s, and they were beautiful, and they looked like movie stars, and their little fannies looked like baseballs. And I wanted my fanny to look like a baseball. So I made Church of God Becky join, and she'll do whatever I say. So anyway, and I call her Church of God Becky because she was raised Church of God, so sweet, sheltered. Like I have to explain things to her. Things like camel toe. So we first get to the CrossFit. And if y'all don't know what CrossFit is, it's military moves like push-ups, pull-ups, burpees. I hate a burpee. Okay, all these things, they would put like a tractor tire in the parking lot, and they'd set little Becky in it, and I would pull Becky across the parking lot as she was holding her purse. So I felt like a bad mama jamma, and I was so tickled and into it. And they came to us one day and they go, "We want y'all to be in our contest. It's called a Paleo contest. And it's going to be 10 weeks long. The men are going to be against each other and the women, and we're going to take your before and after picture, and whoever's body has changed the most at the end will win 3 months of free training." And I wanted to win that 3 months of free training because I didn't want to have to do something vulgar to my husband for the money. So we're going along, and one day they just pop up and go, "Okay, it's picture day." We're like, "What?" And they said, "Okay, take your top off and leave your exercise bra on and your spandex, your yoga pant, and we're going to take your picture." Well, I didn't want those young boys to not ever want to marry and have children. So I said, "Becky and I are going to the back," and I needed to biz my bra so bad. It had no support to it, and it was a gray looking, it was white, but I needed to biz it overnight. I did not know. Anyway, we go back to the office, and I'm going to take Becky's picture, and she's going to take mine. And Becky went. And I said, "What are you doing, Becky?" "Do you want to win this thing?" "I want to win it." So I took my spandex and shoved it under my stomach and went. That picture is on the internet. Okay, y'all, my baby child is 20 and lives in Knoxville. Okay, years ago, we wanted all these children to play sports, to keep them off of dope. And so they played all this stuff, all of them did. And my husband's 6'4", I'm 5'8". We breed big kids. So she, in elementary school, was like 5'5". 5'6". She was taller than all the little children and the principal and the teachers, and she hated it. But the good news is she's very athletic, very strong. So all over East Tennessee, people would call me and say, can she be the goalkeeper for our soccer team? I'll get her an iPhone. Yeah. Can she play basketball for us? She never played basketball. And you know, y'all, I lived through her. And I made her do it. And I felt like LeBron James's mama. And so she came to me and she goes, I'm sick of this. I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm not gonna play all this mess. She goes, I've decided that I wanna cheer. And I said, well, baby, we're big people. And I said, we don't tumble, but I'll figure something out. Well, all over the United States, they've got this thing called competition cheer. And it's kind of like, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like Honey Boo Boo meets the Olympics, really. It's gymnast. They're gymnasts. And there's one in Knoxville called the Sharks. And they said, drop your baby off and she can try out to audition, whatever you want to call it. So I dropped her off and they ended up putting her on a bad Mama Jamma team because all the little children her age came up to hear on her. And somebody's got to throw them up in the air. So they were thrilled with her and they treated us like royalty. But anyway, they said, you're going to come in here twice a week, learn a 2-minute routine. It's going to cost you $150 a month. It's like, okay. They said, there's a uniform that you're going to order, and it comes to here. It's going to expose her stomach. She's going to have a tiny skirt on with a slit in it with a glitter panty underneath it. It's $300. I said, that's a whore outfit. And it came with its own bag of whore makeup. So that all the little children could look alike. And they said, y'all are going to travel to faraway lands and compete against other little whore children. So we went to like Cincinnati or Atlanta. And we had to get hotel rooms and the gas and all of that. And then you drive up to a big coliseum, a huge coliseum. And there's tens of thousands of little whore children walking around. And my husband said, there could be pedophiles here. This is the ugliest thing I've ever, something's not right. Okay, so then they said, you're gonna pay $150 for your baby to be in this competition. You're gonna have to pay $30 to put a band on to get in and watch your baby in this competition. Somebody was selling corn dogs for $15. Okay. They start out with the babies, so it goes from 5 to 18 ages. So the babies come out in a tiny little skirt about the size of a napkin. And they come out to Beyonce's All the Single Ladies. And their little mamas are in their 20s. And they're not bitter yet. And they're in the front doing every move to keep their baby on track because they're babies and they need to be at home breastfeeding. So they move up throughout the day into my baby's age, and they're the reef sharks. They call out that name, honey, for 2.5 minutes. My baby throws little children up in the air, flinging little children, broken out in a sweat, working like a Trojan. Did you see my Spanx? Okay, all right. One of my girls said I look like Miley Cyrus in the Wrecking Ball in my Spanx. But anyway, so she throws these little children up. The little children she's throwing up in the air are the flyers. They call them the flyers. And they're freakishly tiny little children. I don't know where these people come from. Their mamas are freakishly tiny. I mean, I come from big people. I've got thick ankles. I can work in the fields. And the whole time she's throwing them in there, these little girls are going. And nobody knows why, really. So at the end of the routine, after the 2.5 minutes, the finale, everybody hunkers down on the stage, puts their forehead on the stage, and my baby is the finale. She pops up and has a little child's foot in her hand and holds that child's foot. I would put it all the way up, but my dress is tight in the back. But anyway, she holds this little child up over her head. Are y'all listening to me? I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, could you hold her up over your head or vice versa? I mean, you know, it's a big deal. So anyway, everybody went nuts. But she said, after it was over, she goes, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go back to playing. She ended up playing volleyball the rest of her childhood. But she said, I'm keeping that whore outfit. She said, I'm going to get married in it.
You made a decision not to quit.
And I tell you, my manager at the time said, Leanne, there's this company in Salt Lake City, Dry Bar. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's a clean comedy platform. Nobody's ever heard of it. I remember him saying these words to me, nobody will ever see it. But they want you to do a special. They'll pay you a couple of $1,000s. They'll give you a hotel room. You're going to be in Dubuque, Iowa, doing the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. That's how bad my career was going. I was doing the Chamber of Commerce luncheon in Dubuque, which, let me say, there's some of the prettiest people in Dubuque, Iowa. I don't know who those people are. They're beautiful. But they didn't even hire me to do the nighttime thing. I was the luncheon. You know, I barely got enough money to get out there on a tiny plane with propellers and like where I thought I was going to go down. But, and he said, why don't you just scoot on out to Salt Lake City and do that, and we'll get clips. If anything, we'll get clips for you to get more Dubuque of Iowa luncheons. I'm not kidding. That's what he said to me. He had hit a wall. He didn't know what to do. And I was like, okay. And I went out there and did that Dry Bar thinking, this is nothing. But that I don't know, it's gotten like 50 million views. And that really didn't translate into ticket sales. Like, I still couldn't get booked in clubs. They would book me in a club, but they would say, we love her. She doesn't get drunk and fight in the parking lot, but she can't sell tickets. You know, that's what they'd say. We love her, she's sweet, love her, can't sell tickets. And then, so the Dry Bar thing, I was getting all these views and fans and stuff, but it wasn't translating into ticket sales and all that.
Yeah.
And then I said to my manager at the time, when I say that because I'm no longer with him, because I said to him, all the people that I admire, all the people that I love to watch and that I'm a fan of have got social media people. And that's the new thing. And I think I should hire these people to do my social media. And he was like, you can't afford that and you don't need to do that. And I went against him. And it was a lot of money, but I invested in myself. And you know, Heller and I've done comedy for 22 years, but I was a mama first. And every dime I made, I bought uniforms with it. I got everybody's hair cut. I never invested in a website for myself. I had like 2 headshots in 20-something years because it was just, I don't know, that wasn't good business on my part, but I just put everything into my children. That was what I did. And then at this point, in 2019, I thought, I'm going to hire these and I'm going to give it 3 months. I'm going to give these young boys, 3 months. And if it doesn't happen after that, I'll bow out of comedy. I knew I was going to have a grandbaby. Charlie got married right out of college. I knew they were going to have a bunch of babies. And I'm from the country. I wanted to be a meemaw. And I thought, I'll go to work at Target. I'm not kidding. I thought, I'll go to work at Target and I'll put bedding up in the back on those things. That looks fun. I really did. I thought, I'll just bow out of this.
You were about to tap out.
Yeah, I thought, I'm going to give it this. And and then, because I had worked, my manager got me in some clubs. I couldn't sell tickets. I could tell they were like, oh, she's one of those dry bar comics. Like I was really not a legit comic. And you know, over the years, like Comedy Central wouldn't have anything to do with me, you know. I would get no's from all of them. And so I thought, maybe I'm not legit. I mean, maybe this is it. This is the end of the road. And they put out one video about me taking Chuck Morgan to go see Def Leopard and Journey at Thompson Bowling Arena. And I talked about how, and I had filmed that. I had never done that bit before. I did it one time in Chattanooga. Somebody got it on film. Those boys put it out. And I've talked about old people at concerts and how everybody had plantar fasciitis and was worried about the snack bar. And everybody there is our age. And every once in a while, somebody would stand up and then they'd sit back down. And it went viral. And it was like a fire. Somebody lit a fire, and I could feel it. I could feel it in my, a wave go through my body. I knew what was happening. I was in New York City. We were moving my baby into school she went to school for makeup for television and film. We were in a tiny hotel room, and I said, I think something is happening. And Chuck said, the Uber's here. Get the luggage and let's get out. You know, everybody was worried about moving her in her apartment. And but in my heart, I thought, oh my gosh, something is happening. And I could feel it, physically feel it. Does that make sense? I physically felt something. I thought, oh my gosh, I knew it. I saw people, thousands of people sharing. Well, people saw that and started looking at everything else that I had online that liked that. And then my manager called and said, they want to book you back in Orlando. They want to book you in Tampa. They want you to come to Chicago. And I started selling out all over the United States. It happened I'm not kidding, in 2 to 3 weeks, my life changed. Is that not the craziest thing? It's so much more special and wonderful than anything I ever thought it was going to be.
The reason I'm sitting here and just absorbing what you're saying, and hopefully not stepping on what you're saying, is because I saw it happen. And I'm so proud of you for not quitting.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
For not giving up, for believing in the possibility. So it starts to happen. 100-city tour?
Yes. So I was selling out all over the United States in comedy clubs. One-nighters, and then and people were lined up, and these comedy club people were like, where have you been? Your audience is the best audience we've ever seen. They're not rowdy. We don't have to calm anybody down. They're not fighting. It would be, and this is what was special, it would be a grandmama, like an 80-year-old woman who's never been to a comedy club. Her daughter, 50, and then her daughter, like 25. And they said, we've never seen this before. And I would see these little elderly people sitting in the front row with a little brooch on, coming to a comedy club. and I'd think, I can't even believe this. And I really messed with my head, and I thought, I need to go home with every one of them and clean their house and make them a casserole. I really did. And put in a load of wash. Because they're coming out and doing this for me. Because it had been years, you know, where I could not, comedy clubs, I worked comedy clubs, like 5 or 6 a year would book me, but most of them were like, you know, I didn't come up in them, so they didn't want me. So anyway, that was all crazy. And then my agent called me. Somebody begged, my manager begged somebody to take me as an agent. I was selling out all over the United States, and they still didn't want me. And I don't know if it's because I was a 50-something-year-old woman from Tennessee. I don't know what it was, but they had to beg a guy, like a favor, can you take her as her agent? And so he took me, sweet young guy, and they call me and they go, Outback Concerts out of Nashville, Tennessee, which I've known Mike Smartack and Brian Dorfman for 20 years. I've always wanted to be in business with them. They did the Blue Collar Tour, and they do all the comedians that you've ever loved. Called me and they said, we want to give you a 50-city tour. Put it on sale, sold out. They said, we're going to give you another 50. So that was the 100-city tour, and I named it the Big Panty Tour. He came to me in, he was in middle school or high school, and he's very spiritually mature, has always been. I didn't do it. Their daddy didn't do it. God did it. But we call him our little Billy Graham. But anywho, so he was dating a little girl, and he came home, and I said, what y'all been doing? And he said, we've been watching a movie, and we were kissing. I said, oh, that's normal. That's okay. But I said, baby, before you know it, one thing can get out of hand. You've got your arm around somebody, and then you've got your hand on her leg. Things can get out of control. He looked at me like I was crazy. And he said to me, Mom, I've prayed about this. Nothing like that's going to happen. And I know he meant that. And all I could think of to myself was some of the nastiest things I ever did. Was at the Adams United Methodist Youth Fellowship. On a hayride. I don't know what it was about hay that set me on fire. I wish it did now. I could get a new purse out of that. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Youth groups. And we've all, here in the South, we've all been raised in church, Did y'all ever go to a lock-in? What little fool came up with that? Y'all know that it was some precious little woman maybe, and they were like, they were in a committee meeting, and she was like, oh gosh, y'all, we need to come up for something for all the hormonal teenagers. I know. We'll put them in the church building and lock the door and turn the lights out and leave them there all night. Maybe somebody will end up pregnant. Okay, y'all. My middle one that lives here in Chattanooga has always had a lot of suitors coming around and wanting to date her. And she had this one, and he was I wouldn't say an Eddie Haskell, but he was a schmoozer. Like he knew he was a player. Okay? Their daddy's not a player. Okay, my husband, he doesn't chat. Like he vacuumed out my car when he was dating me, and he bought my cigarettes, so that's how we started. But anyway, it was the 80s. But anyway, the young people call it player, some fast-talking boy. She had this fast-talking boy coming around, and he would say to me things like, Miss Morgan, you look beautiful today. And I was like, can I make you a casserole? Thank goodness they broke up, because I was exhausted. I was mopping the floor and blowing my hair out every day. And I don't do that. Let me tell you why I got played. I thought, why am I so tickled when somebody compliments me? It's because my love language is words of affirmation. Have y'all ever heard of that book, 5 Love Languages? It is wonderful, and it works. It's the real deal. My husband and I went on a Sunday school class retreat when our children were little, and we watched this little frail man talk about it. Okay, and it was on Oprah, so it's real. But anyway, what it is there's 5 love languages, and you get the book, you read the book. Well, I don't read the book. But anyway, you take the test, and it tells you what your prominent love language is out of those 5, and it tells you what your partner's love language is. So then you can go home at night and feed your partner their love language, and they can feed you your love language, and then your love tank feels full. And if you don't do it, then your partner's liable to go to work and they're at the water fountain and some whore comes in. Summer's almost over and I don't know where it went. Do y'all feel that way? It just seems like it just left. Okay, and every summer I dread, I think, oh gosh, I've got to go buy a bathing suit. And now it's over and I barely even wore one. What I've been wearing is my swim dress. Because my life is over. I did a show for a bunch of women, and one of the women came up and she said, you know, you ought to go to Sears and get you a swim dress in the Land's End department. And I thought, should this hurt my feelings? So I did. I went to the Sears in Knoxville, Tennessee. They've still got our Sears open. I don't know if y'all's is open or not in Chattanooga. Okay, ours, you go in, there's not a soul in there. The lights are on. Nobody's shopping. Nobody's working. I mean, I felt creeped out and I thought, are they running dope out of Sears? So I bought me a Land's End swim dress, and I gotta tell y'all, I'm beautiful in it. Okay. It gathers in right here where my hernia mesh is. And it shows my arms that I still have, because they're my daddy's. Jimmy Fletcher, I've still got his arms. Okay, I've still got my collarbones, praise God. And then it covers up the white flour and the sugar. So I just get a spray tan and I'm good. Well, for years, I was in torment wearing a miracle suit. I don't know if any of y'all have bought a miracle suit before. I know they've got them at y'all's Belk. I know they got them. And there's going to be a big gob of them hanging together because they have hundreds of them. And I wore one year. I felt so desperate after I couldn't wear a bikini anymore. I wore a lavender one in Hawaii, and my husband and I went, and they took this scuba video of us scuba diving, and I popped that video in from Maui, and I thought, oh, I can't wait, and this like big lavender thing goes by, and I'm like, what is that? I destroyed that video. It's awful. But anyway, so I get this miracle suit. They're at y'all's Belk, and it's got a big sign that says lose 10 pounds in 10 minutes. Miracle suit. You do, because you sweat yourself to death trying to get it on. Because it's got a girdle in it. The girdle's right through here, because it's a one piece. So the girdle's right through here. It smooths you out real pretty through here, because it squeezes your fat out in every other hole. And don't get it wet, because somebody will have to cut it off of you. But I would get it every year because I felt desperate and I didn't know what else to do. Well, my girlfriend, the one with the poop, banked up poop, okay, she wanted one, and her 14-year-old daughter drove to Knoxville to the Dillards and got in the dressing room, and the 14-year-old was in there sacking her mama up in this bathing suit. They both broke out in the sweat over their lip, and the 14-year-old said, ew. Mom. Gross. Let's put it back and get out of here. She said, I can't. I've got to buy it. I just peed in it. Thank y'all so much. Let me tell you about my family. I have my husband. We live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I have my husband. Thank you. Well, I have my husband and my 3 grown children. I have a 25-year-old boy that's married to a darling little girl. And then I have my 22-year-old daughter and then my 20-year-old daughter, and she's still in Knoxville with us. And so these children grew up and left me with their daddy. And he is so not fun. And so he doesn't chat. And so I'm just at home talking to myself. And we've got 2 beagles. And we miss these children so bad that we just sit and kiss them in the mouth. So I'm trying to adjust to just being with their daddy. And so I bought him tickets to go see Def Leopard and Journey. Woo! Okay, let me tell you. Have y'all been to concerts lately with old people that are older than I am? Okay. We went, and I thought, oh, we're going to have a fun date. And I said, where are we going to go out to eat? And he goes, I don't have time for that. It was on a weeknight. So he went to the Pilot and bought himself a tall boy. And I think that's what it's called, and an egg salad sandwich from the Pilot. And so I didn't get to eat, and I was so hungry. And it dawned on me at a concert. You know, when I was 20 and I'd go to a concert, I was at University of Tennessee, and so I'd go to Thompson Bowling. And I'd wear a crop top. And I didn't care about eating. I wasn't hungry, you know. I was thinking what boys were going to be there, and I had on little bitty breeches. Because I still had a metabolism and my thyroid was acting right. Okay. So we go to Def Leopard and Journey, and everybody there is our age. And everybody's worried about the snack bar, first of all. And I was too. And I was so hungry, and I noticed that people had big Diet Cokes, like big buckets of Diet Coke, and were sucking on those big buckets of Diet Coke while the concert was going on. And every once in a while, somebody would stand up and then they'd sit back down. Journey has a little bitty feller from another country singing for them, and he's yummy. He looks like a little M&M. You could put him in your pocket. And you could tell he doesn't eat white flour and sugar. And he's singing and doing, he sounds like Steve Perry, but it's not the same. You know, Steve Perry is my boo. So it was like we were going to a tribute concert. But anyway, everybody in the band, besides this little fella, everybody had eaten white flour and sugar, probably had done dope and drank terrible things, and everybody looked sick, and the bass player looked like somebody I had bought my jewelry from for years, and they were just barely a-going. And then Def Leppard came out, and it was that lead singer, I think, has got thyroid issues. His hair was just thin and didn't have a lux to it, and then I noticed he had little bitty tiny legs and a little pot-belly stomach. But he sang "Put Some Sugar on It," which I hate that mess. I am a Earth, Wind and Fire R&B gal, and I love my Journey, but I was like, this isn't my thing. And my husband every once in a while would go, and then just sit down, because he loves it. But anyway, this little man with the tiny little legs and the thin-in hair, and then he had this little bump right here, and I could tell that's a hernia. He's got a hernia. And I bet that he hadn't had time to get it fixed. He hadn't had time to put a mesh in. And you could just see it. It looks like my stomach, because I've had a hernia, but I've had mine fixed. And I thought, oh, bless his heart. But he'd do, and he'd prop a little thin, frail leg up on something. Oh, I thought, isn't it funny how things have changed since I went to concerts when I was 20? Everybody was walking out like this because everybody had inflammation in their feet. Trying to get to their car. And it was like 10 o'clock. I thought, what are we doing out here? What are we doing? We got to get home. We got to get in the bed. In the suit season, Lord, I've always worn a miracle suit, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, but I did a show for a group here in Knoxville. They were darling. And after I did it, a woman came up to me and she goes, Leanne, are you not going to Sears and buying you a swim dress? And I thought, well, I didn't know my life was over. So she said, you need to go to Sears or order it online with Land's End. And it's a swim dress. She goes, you're going to love it, I promise you. Okay, so I go to Sears at Westtown Mall. When's the last time any of y'all went to Sears at Westtown Mall? There's not a soul in the Westtown Mall Sears. They've got the lights on. There's nobody working. There's nobody there shopping. I swear I think they're running dope out of Sears. But I got me a swim dress, and I am beautiful in it. And I'll tell you why, because it shows my arms. My arms, the only thing I've got left living for. And they are my daddy's. Jimmy Fletcher, I got them from him. My sister gets so mad because she didn't get them, and she'll call me and say, you got daddy's arms, and just hang up on me. But this swim dress, okay, it cinches up through here, so it's real flattering right there. And then it comes down and hides all this boogity-boo I got going on right here. And I am beautiful in it. I hate to say that. It kind of looks like Titanic, but for years I wore a miracle suit. Okay, the miracle suit is in Dillard's and Bell, Macy's, or all over. And there'll be hundreds of them in a big area at a department store. And there's a tag hanging from all of them that says, miracle suit. Lose 10 pounds in 10 minutes. And you do, because you sweat yourself to death trying to get it on. Because the miracle suit has a girdle in it. They're one piece. So the girdle is right through here, so it smooths you out real pretty through here. You look really good because it squeezes your fat out in all the other directions, all the other holes. And I would buy it because I felt desperate and I didn't know what else to do. And I didn't feel pretty in them, and then I'd buy a sarong and wrap it around my whole body, and then sit under an umbrella and act like I was reading. But I bought them every year. I had them all the time, and I look back in videos from vacations, and I've got them on, and it's awful. Okay, so my girlfriend, the one with poop, you remember her? Okay, she found out that I had one. She was like, oh my gosh, I want one. So she drove down from Greenville, Tennessee, and they went to the Dillards. And she brought her 14-year-old daughter with her, and they got in the dressing room at Dillard's, and the 14-year-old was sacking her mama up in this bathing suit. And her 14-year-old said, Mom, this is so gross. put it back, let's get out of here. She said, I can't, I've got to buy it, I just peed in it. In Knoxville, our children's hospital had asked me for years to be in there Dancing with the Stars. I want to be able to tell y'all it was ABC, but it wasn't. It was in Knoxville, and it was local celebrities. So it's like the weatherman, and Phil Fulmer if he didn't have a knee replacement, and, you know, people like that. So they had asked me, there's not many celebrities, so they had asked me, and I said, well, I've been eating white flour, and I'm in a bad place, and I don't know. Because they make you wear a bikini with fringe sewn on it, like ABC. You wear outfits like that, so you're practically nude in front of everybody you've ever known. So I said, this is for little children. This is the least I can do. So they put me with a big old boy that was my partner. He was a doll, and it was very stressful. You had to learn a dance in 6 weeks. You had to learn a dance. You practiced at night, and then you begged for money during the day. It was a lot. And we were going to learn the cha-cha, to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I was going to kill it. Well, one night, he kind of flung me hard, and I thought, oh, something popped. And something doesn't feel right. The next morning I woke up and there was this big bulging thing about right here. And I called my girlfriend in Greenville, Tennessee, and I said, I think I've got backed up poop. And she said, because I have trouble with that. But she said, I don't think poop goes up that far. And so she looked on her iPad on WebMD, and she sent me this picture of this man looked like an alien coming out of him. She said, is that it? And I go, that's it. She goes, you've got a hernia. So I went to my doctor, and they said, we can't push this thing back in. And so the thing was in 5 days with Children's Hospital, and I didn't want to let them down. And I thought, Lord, what are we going to do? And my girls stepped in and learned a dance in 4 days. Bless their hearts, and they were practically nude. And they had to wear all that too. And I came out in a wheelchair to Proud Mary Keep On Turning. Thank you. And it all turned out good. The girls did that dance. You've seen that video from a long time, from the 60s with Tina Turner, and they were doing that dance. You know, it looked like car wash, something going through. Y'all seen that? And you know that Ike probably whipped her in a cocaine rage before she hit that video. So I thought, if she can do it, I can do it. But you know, let me tell you, it ended up a wonderful thing. We raised a lot of money, and it was a blessing. And this blessing came out of it. Let me tell you, my husband found out about the cuddling program, and he is a baby cuddler. He cuddles drug-dependent babies every Wednesday night in Children's Hospital. Thank you. Thank you. That is so sweet. He didn't help me with mine, but that is so sweet. In Knoxville, our children's hospital had asked me for years to be in there Dancing with the Stars. I want to be able to tell y'all it was ABC, but it wasn't. It was in Knoxville, and it was local celebrities. So it's like the weatherman, and Phil Fulmer if he didn't have a knee replacement, and, you know, people like that. So they had asked me, there's not many celebrities, so they had asked me, and I said, well, I've been eating white flour, and I'm in a bad place, and I don't know. Because they make you wear a bikini with fringe sewn on it, like ABC. You wear outfits like that, so you're practically nude in front of everybody you've ever known. So I said, this is for little children. This is the least I can do. So they put me with a big old boy that was my partner. He was a doll, and it was very stressful. You had to learn a dance in 6 weeks. You had to learn a dance. You practiced at night, and then you begged for money during the day. It was a lot. And we were going to learn the cha-cha, the Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I was going to kill it. Well, one night, he kind of flung me hard, and I thought, oh, something popped. And something doesn't feel right. The next morning I woke up and there was this big bulging thing about right here. And I called my girlfriend in Greenville, Tennessee, and I said, I think I've got backed up poop. And she said, because I have trouble with that. But she said, I don't think poop goes up that far. And so she looked on her iPad on WebMD, but she sent me this picture of this man looked like an alien coming out of him. She said, is that it? And I go, that's it. She goes, you've got a hernia. So I went to my doctor, and they said, we can't push this thing back in. And so the thing was in 5 days with Children's Hospital, and I didn't want to let them down. And I thought, Lord, what are we going to do? And my girls stepped in and learned a dance in 4 days. Bless their hearts, and they were practically nude. And they had to wear all that too. And I came out in a wheelchair to Proud Mary Keep On Turning. I praise God that Weight Watchers doesn't have a limit on how many times you can join. Because I've done Weight Watchers 9 times. And I've lost 7 pounds in all. It's because I don't follow it. And I know it works. I really do. I know it works, but I go more for the comedy at the meetings. I don't know if y'all have ever been to a Weight Watchers meeting, but it is so funny. Okay, like everybody comes up with recipes. Like the other day, we were there, and a woman goes, okay, if you put a teaspoon of cocoa and an egg white, and put a dollop of water in it and pray over it and put it in the microwave, you've got chocolate cake. And we've all got our iPhone out and trying to film her. And then somebody will get up and they'll go, oh my gosh, y'all, there's fat-free chocolate mint ice cream, but you can only find it at the Harriman Walmart. And people start throwing chairs and like running in a panic. This is what I figured out about myself. Okay, I eat, and I think it's because I'm from sweet country farming people. We value our children and what we've grown to eat and what we've killed. So my people use food for everything. If you're happy, if you're sad, if whatever. I mean, a celebration, woo, okay. And I know I've done that, and I know that I eat emotionally, but I never wanted to ride around in a minivan on dope or alcohol with little children in the car. I didn't want to drink whiskey. So my kids would get to fighting, and my husband would say something hateful like, what have you done all day? And that would make me so mad, and I'd eat a hot dog, and I didn't even know what happened. But Weight Watchers has a point system. So say you get like 23 points out of the day, and you got to go within those points, and they'll say, fruits and vegetables are free. You don't want fruits and vegetables. When you first start, you're so hungry that you could eat the wallpaper off the wall. A chicken breast is 3 points. A Snicker bar is 12 points. That's what you want. I've been known to be in the closet turning a lamp on and off, eating a sleeve of Chips Ahoy cookies. So I try to stay within my points. All right, my sister will go on it every time I will, and she lives in Clarksville, Tennessee, and she'll call me and she'll say, it's noon, and I've eaten all my points. Summer's almost over, and I don't know where it went. Do y'all feel that way? It just seems like it just left. Okay, and every summer I think, oh gosh, I've got to go buy a bathing suit. And now it's over, and I barely even wore one. What I've been wearing is my swim dress. Because my life is over. I did a show for a bunch of women, and one of the women came up and she said, you know, you ought to go to Sears and get you a swim dress in the Land's End department. And I thought, should this hurt my feelings? So I did. I went to the Sears in Knoxville, Tennessee. They've still got our Sears open. I don't know if y'all's is open or not in Chattanooga. Okay, ours, you go in, there's not a soul in there. The lights are on. Nobody's shopping. Nobody's working. I mean, I felt creeped out, and I thought, are they running dope out of Sears? So I bought me a Land's End swim dress, and I gotta tell y'all, I'm beautiful in it. Okay. It gathers in right here where my hernia mesh is. And it shows my arms that I still have, because they're my daddy's. Jimmy Fletcher, I've still got his arms. Okay, I've still got my collarbones, praise God. And then it covers up the white flour and the sugar. So I just get a spray tan and I'm good. Well, for years, I was in torment wearing a miracle suit. I don't know if any of y'all have bought a miracle suit before. I know they've got them at y'all's Belk. I know they got them. And there's going to be a big gob of them hanging together, because they have hundreds of them. And I wore one year. I felt so desperate after I couldn't wear a bikini anymore. I wore a lavender one in Hawaii, and my husband and I went, and they took this scuba video of us scuba diving, and I popped that video in from Maui, and I thought, oh, I can't wait, and this like big lavender thing goes by, and I'm like, what is that? I destroyed that video. It's awful. But anyway, so I get this miracle suit. They're at y'all's Belk, and it's got a big sign that says lose 10 pounds in 10 minutes. Miracle suit. You do, because you sweat yourself to death trying to get it on. Because it's got a girdle in it The girdle's right through here because it's a one piece. So the girdle's right through here. It smooths you out over their lip. And the 14-year-old said, "Ew. Mom. Gross. Let's put it back and get out of here." She said, "I can't. I've got to buy it. I just peed in it." All my children are yummy, and I'm in love with them, and I love my girls, and I know that when I'm in the nursing home, they'll be the ones to come and pluck my chin hairs. Because he is now since married and gone off with his wife and her people. And that's what boys do. They cling to their wife. That's biblical. He said to me, "Mom, she is now my immediate family. You are my extended." That's what he said to me right before they got married. And he said, "Mom, that's biblical. I'm supposed to cling to my wife." And I thought, why did I show him the Bible? Well, he has always been spiritually mature. We call him our little Billy Graham. My husband and we didn't do it. God did it. I'm full of sin. Okay. I've been washed in the blood, but I've been a horrible, horrible person. Not too bad, but okay. So this baby has been just like an old man all of his life. Let me give you an example. He had a little girlfriend in high school, and he would go over to her house and they'd watch movies. And he came home one night and he used to tell me everything. And I said, "What y'all been doing?" He said, "Well, we've been watching television and kissing on the couch." And I said, "Okay, baby, okay. That's all right. That's normal." But I said, before you know it, you've got your hand on somebody's leg, your arm around, and things can get out of control. And I just say, slow it down. He looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, "Mom, I've prayed about this. Nothing like that's going to happen." And I know he meant that. And all I could think of to myself was some of the nastiest things I ever did. Was at the Adams United Methodist Youth Fellowship on a hayride. I don't know what it was about hay that set me on fire. I wish it did now, because I could get a new purse out of that. Okay, y'all, have you ever heard of lock-in? I know everybody in here that has been from Chattanooga has probably been raised in church. Okay, I don't know who that little darling, sweet fool was that came up with the lock-in. Probably a little woman in a committee meeting. And she probably said, "Oh gosh, y'all, let's come up with something for all the hormonal teenagers. Let's gather them up and put them in the church building and lock the door and turn the lights out and leave them there all night. Maybe somebody will end up pregnant." So they said, for 10 weeks, you're going to do CrossFit 3 days a week, and you're going to do the Paleo diet. The Paleo diet is what God put upon this earth to sustain us. And He knows what we need. So it's lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, berries, and seeds. So if you can run it down and kill it, dig it out of the ground, pick it off of a bush, you can eat it. That means no dairy, no grains of any kind. But when they take you lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and berries, you think, that's not so bad. Okay, but no dairy, no grains. When's the last time anybody in here got off of white flour? Anybody, can you clap? Can you clap, or are you too weak? Anybody here been hooked on heroin? Anybody? I've never been hooked on heroin, praise God, but I was raised watching Shaft. I don't know if y'all watched that when y'all were little on TV, and they would always have somebody getting off of heroin. It looked like a booger. It looked like an awful booger. And I'm not trying to belittle that, but I'm telling you, I shook getting off of sugar and white flour. I was drinking coffee 24 hours a day. My teeth got yellow. I had to have those bleached. My husband said, "You are so hateful. Will you please eat a piece of white bread?" But Church of God Beacon, I did it, honey. We did it. And I mean, then they took our after picture. It took, 10 weeks later, and I did not lose that much weight. It was like 8 or 9 pounds, but my body turned into somebody else's body, honey. And it was pretty cute. And I leaned out and I thought, oh my gosh. And so then they took our after picture, and I made sure I got a spray tan. And I had a really good bra on, and I took that picture. And I'm ashamed to tell y'all, but I won that competition. Oh, stop. I don't deserve to be applauded. I know y'all are thinking, oh gosh, Leanne, that's wonderful, but what happened? What happened, Leanne? I'll tell you what happened. I did okay for about 3 weeks, and then I spotted a tortilla. That's what happened.